Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Monday, April 7th, Championship Monday, here on the Sneakers and Cleats podcast, episode 185. Matt Roy, Chuck McTinnick on tap for you after a wild week in San Antonio. Chuck, what's up, dude? Did you get any sleep?
Yes, I actually did get a full night's sleep last night.
I'm proud of you. I haven't gotten many of those this past week.
All for a good cause, though, right?
Absolutely.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been long days and a lot of stories, a lot of content churned out, but it couldn't have imagined a more fun week. I mean, Final Four in town, VTO in town, hundreds of thousands of people, it feels like, have descended upon San Antonio, and we're just here at the epicenter of it all. It's been fun.
It has, and shout out to all the teams that are here, coaches, players, staff. I mean, everybody's been so friendly, warm, welcoming, good shares of their time. I mean, just very impressed. I mean, you know, you never thought in your wildest dreams, right, you'd ever get a chance to mix it up with some of these good young college players and great young college players, actually, and, you know, find out a little something about them. And it's really, really been a remarkable week in that regard.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun getting to know some of the players, getting to talk to people you've never talked to before or don't get the chance to talk to very often, at least seeing people throughout all walks of life that come here and descend upon San Antonio, especially in the media circles. I saw my SID from Arizona State, the sports and information director for now is the head of sports and information at Arizona State. When I was there, Doug Tamaro, the best SID in the country, I will always say. Saw him. He's helping work the Final Four like he always does.
Shout out Peter Contreras, too, who was the SID at Texas State when I was there, too. He did UIL stuff for years, too. I saw him. I hadn't seen him in years.
Yeah, it's crazy who you run into at an event like this. It's like it's huge. It's the only thing, in my opinion, smaller than the Super Bowl when it comes to these kinds of things. I'm sure the CFP is the same way. I haven't been to any of those yet, but I'm sure it's very, very similar. But it's been awesome. It's been an awesome week. Awesome talking to Coach Sampson and getting to know kind of what he's all about. And same with Todd Golden and Bruce Pearl and all those guys. A lot of the players, Terrence Arsenault, someone I didn't know, and now I feel like I've talked to him 100 different times because of how this week has kind of gone. So it's been a lot of fun. That said, subscribe to the YouTube channel, both News 4, Fox SA, download, rate, review the podcast version if you're so inclined. Also follow us on Twitter, or X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those things. We're putting out a whole bunch of content this whole week, including one of the funniest moments of any of the press conferences last night. Juwan Roberts was asked if there's any times where the age difference between Kelvin Sampson and his team kind of come out, and he had a really, really funny answer to that, especially when he asked, am I going to get in trouble for this? Like 4 different times. So it was really funny. I put that up on my TikTok. So a lot of those fun little things coming out of this week. We're going to talk all about the championship game today. We'll talk about the Final Four games today. It's going to be Houston and the Florida Gators doing battle in about 7 hours or so here in the Alamodome. So we'll talk all about that. The craziness that was Saturday night from Houston and Florida. Both of those comebacks were absolutely insane. Houston's a little bit more so, obviously. And then we'll talk about just what San Antonio and the city and the vibe has kind of been like around town. I think San Antonio has done a wonderful job of hosting this thing, and how they redid the Alamodome was absolutely nuts. I barely even recognize that building, I think, right now.
Very well done. And shout out to the NCAA, too, for how, you know, these things are circuses, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the circus is definitely in town, but I really have enjoyed watching how the NCAA handles this. The basketball stuff is the basketball stuff, and the circus is the circus. The circus is around the basketball stuff, but it's not in the same environment, right? I mean, you still got the college bands in there playing, which is really cool. And I just think it's fascinating how they choose to pull this event off, which is we're going to have concerts, we're going to have all these side things going on, but they're all outside of the arena and not in the basketball setting. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's still a national
NFL
championship. It's still a game.
Yes.
So you still have these teams who clearly the teams are playing along, and the teams are doing a very good job of making themselves available, and the players are doing a very good job of making themselves available and talking to the media and answering questions 2, 3, and 4 times over. Because when you're in these locker rooms, you go around and you ask your question, and then you leave and someone else isn't there, and they come over and they might ask the same question. And so the players, I think, have done a very good job of being patient with the media because you have 30 to 45-minute locker room sessions, and you could ask the same question 3 or 4 times. And I would get annoyed. I do get annoyed when I get asked the same question 2 or 3 times. So they've all been great. And so, but to your point, the basketball is the basketball. They're here to win a championship, and their focus, the NCAA has done a really good job of making sure that the focus is still on that, especially for the teams. So we'll get into all that. Plus something that came across my timeline, Barstool president, CEO Dave Portnoy came to San Antonio for the Final Four and absolutely blasted Greg Popovich in a scathing minute and 15-second rant or so. So I cut that. We'll listen to that here in a little bit. He called Greg Popovich a pompous a-hole. I did not bleep it. So, I mean, I think we're fine by saying ass on the show. So anyway, we'll get to all that.
Yes, we're about to find out.
Yeah, and well, I just did. So here we go. It's been 185 episodes. Haven't gotten in trouble yet. So
you're moving the target ever so close.
I know. Well,
yes.
As long as I don't drop an F-bomb, I think we're fine. Anyway, it's been a while since I've done that. Let's get started with the national championship game.
I've got a little loose around here too, so you're in good company.
That's what it's for.
Right.
Can't say it on air, but like on TV. Unless you're SNL. Did you see the SNL thing on Saturday night?
I did not.
So they were doing the skit on Weekend Update, and they said, and this chick, I forgot what her name was, Ego something, and she was doing like a stand-up routine, and she said, "Men ain't," and she just threw the mic out to the audience, and the audience all said the S word, and they all yelled it, and so all the people on the set were like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" And then she was like, "Well, we're gonna have to talk to the FCC about that one." It's really funny.
Well, probably not in this day and age.
Maybe. I mean, 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. I don't know if you can say shit.
Right.
But
CNN's putting them up on bad words up on crawls now and
it's true.
On banners. So
yeah, it's gotten a little bit less taboo. So
yes.
Anyway, let's get to the championship game. Florida and Houston tonight, 7:50 on CBS from the Alamodome. It's going to be a really good game about a contrast of styles. But in order to talk about the 2 teams that are left, let's talk about the 2 teams that they beat and the games that we went through. I want to start with Houston because that was the more entertaining and the more interesting of the 2, just because of the comeback that happened. I was in the building, and it was something unlike I've ever seen before. You're down 14 with 8:17 left. You're down 9 with 2:10 left. I thought the game was over. When Cooper Flagg hits that corner 3, then he goes down, he swats a ball out of the building on a block of Emmanuel Sharp, and it was a 9-point game with about 2:05 remaining. I thought the game was done. Then you're down 6 with about 35 seconds left. Somehow they end the game on a 25-8 run, an 11-1 run in the final 90 seconds, a 7-0 run in the final 15 seconds. And they come back and they beat the Blue Devils 70-67. Coming back from a 14-point deficit, which is the largest deficit in Final Four history to come back and win a game, and the 5th largest deficit in a tournament game. Absolutely nuts.
Okay, you have time for a short story?
Yeah.
So I was here on Saturday night. I was here holding down the Fox side on the sports side,
Saturday
obviously,
night,
and I looked at the screen. U of H was down 12. I'd already worked. I don't have to get into all the, the amount of hours that we put in this week. I'm like, okay, this game's over. I'm going home. So I went home. Our wonderful sports photographer, Jack Green, sends me video after the ball game of the Cougs leaving the court and walking to the locker room. And he just put, "Hey, if you need this for social media." And I was like, I'm thinking in my head, well, why would I need the loser team
Wait,
to
you didn't
put on
watch the rest
social
of
media?
it?
No, I didn't see a single second of the end of the game. So I'm like, wait a second, Jack wouldn't send me rando video. So I Google and I see 70-67, and I'm thinking, you have got to be kidding me. What the hell did I miss? So then I had to go backtrack and see what I missed. And then I posted it, as if I was there.
That's so funny.
and just witness history.
Oh my God. I didn't know that. I didn't know you left and you didn't watch the rest of the game.
Did.
So you turned it off at about 7:30.
No, I left to go home. I got a 25-minute drive with, how wonderfully synced traffic lights are here in town. It takes me a little longer to get home than normal. And I was itching to get to that first malt beverage at the house after a long day of work.
That's so funny. I had no idea that you left.
Yep, that's my story.
Being in the building for that was
I can imagine.
I can't even comprehend it. I was texting some buddies of mine, and the service in the Alamodome with 70,000 people there is horrible. So I could barely get a text to my wife, let alone a group chat with my buddies. But I was sitting there, and I have Jason Fitz in the Yahoo team on my left. I have an Orlando Sentinel reporter on my right. And we're all just kind of watching. We're like, yeah, this Duke team, it's inevitable. They're down. They're up 14 with 8 minutes left. Tyrese Proctor just hits a free throw. We're like, this game's freaking done. And then they make a shot, technical free throw. You get two more, and then you make another one. It's an 8-point game all of a sudden. And we're like, okay, this is Houston. They're, of course, not going to go down without a fight. And then it's a 4-point game. It's 59-55, 10-0 run. And you're like, okay, this got interesting. And then Cooper Flagg happens yet again. He hits that three. I think it was 2:17 left, something like that. Hits the corner three, comes back, smacks the ball into oblivion. And you're like, this game is over. Like, why are we still doing this? It's a 9-point game with about 2:15 left. And you're like, okay, this has been a really fun game, but Duke is Duke. They're going to pull away at the end. And then just Houston just keeps chipping away and chipping away and chipping away. And out of nowhere, Emmanuel Sharp hits the three. They're down by 3 points. They get the turnover out of bounds. It's down by 1. And you're like, what the hell just happened? And we're all just sitting there. Like, I'm looking to people I've never talked to before in my life in the media circles. I'm looking at my left and my right. Like, is this actually happening? Are we going to let this happen? This is actually going on. And then it just
let it happen.
Well, it's a
I knew you controlled that stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's a Forgetting Sarah Marshall reference.
Oh,
you ever see the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Yes.
When they're going to dinner and he's like, this is actually happening. We're going to let this happen. Okay. Anyway, it's one of my favorite movies. And so then it happens and we're all just like, holy crap. We just witnessed what is the greatest comeback in Final Four history. And Kelvin Sampson afterwards, I loved the social media after Kelvin, because everyone's with their phones seeing him pump up the crowd and hug Hakeem Olajuwon and hug Jim Nance afterwards. And then you see him dancing when he gets in the locker room. It was fantastic. This is what Kelvin said when he got back to the podium after all of his dance moves in the locker room.
It took us a while to become who we are. But at some point, if you have a culture, your kids aren't, quitting is not part of the deal. We're not going to quit. We're just going to play better.
And like I said in my package yesterday, and play better they did. Like I don't know if it's the type of basketball that Houston plays where they just grind you down and they're physical with you, and eventually you just can't keep up anymore, because it seemed like Duke was a little bit out of their element in the last 8 minutes and got out physicaled and got a little tired and got a little tight late in the game. But man, I've never seen anything like that.
This is what the Cougs do, right? I mean, they're just relentless. And I know we talked about this last week. They just keep coming. There's just no stop. There is no quit, obviously. But for them to be able to sustain that kind of effort, that constant, I mean, it's really something to behold. And obviously it played out in their favor in a game that, by all accounts, looked like it was going to be over.
Juwan Roberts said it multiple times over the last few days. Excuse me. He's like, we practice here and we play. And when you play a game, you're consistently at a here. And so if you practice up here for an hour and a half, we know that we can play a game here if we need to the entire time. So when you practice up here and then the game ends up being here, we're ready for that. We are completely prepared to play a game every possession as hard as we can for every second of a 40 or 45 or 50 or 55 or however long the game goes. They are prepared to play the game with reckless abandon for the entirety of the game, and it just wears people down.
Did you see the videos yesterday that were circulating of their loose ball drills?
Yeah, those were circulating all last week.
Yeah. I didn't see any of them last week, but it's like, man, that's almost prison rules. And I mean, like, I don't know that you can do that with 5 stars, right? If you have 5 stars across the board that have an eye on the NBA, I mean, but if that's what you're trying to build, a grit, a toughness, which is, old school. And I mean, man, I'm an instant fan of these guys when I see something like that. Like, if you're practicing that, and if you're practicing with that kind of effort going for loose balls in a practice setting, what the hell do you think you're going to get in a game setting when there's something on the line?
I didn't know Kelvin Sampson at all. I'd never met him before in my life. I've interviewed him 4 times this week, and he's grown on me, man. Like, I'm a huge Kelvin Sampson fan now after this week. He is a genuine, kind dude, and his players, the way his players speak about him, obviously they're not going to say anything bad anyway, but the way his players speak about him is very Pop-esque, very how Greg Popovich's former players speak about him. And it's just very covering Pop and covering that team, these teams, excuse me. You can see the similarities, and it's very it's nice to see that players respect and hold their coach to such a high degree of respect.
Yeah, and I think some of this too is, if you've ever had a hard coach, shout out Sil Perez.
Shout out Don Brady.
You may not get it at the time, when you're a kid, but you get it not soon after you leave and you realize what somebody's trying to give you.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you take with you the rest of your life and how that can form a bond later in life too. And I think, the maturity level of all of these players that we've met this week is not common to like when I was a kid. I mean, these guys are really grown young men. And I think their worldview on what they're getting from their coaches is a lot different than what it may have been when I was younger. But I think they realize in the moment what they're getting from Coach Sampson and how whatever it is or wherever it's coming from or whatever it looks like is going to serve them all greatly, no matter if they play basketball or if they enter the business world or, whether they're a husband or a father.
I forgot, to your point about not everyone can be coached like that, I forgot who it was this week who said not everyone wants to be coached. Not everyone loves being coached. Some people, you have to go to the University of Houston, you have to love being coached, and you have to love trying to improve yourself, and you have to know in deep within you that whatever Kelvin Sampson is doing, it's to get you better as a person and as a player. And Todd Golden does a lot of that too. We've spoken to a lot of his guys, and he gets on their ass for a lot of reasons. But you have to love the process in order to go to some of these programs. I think it was Juwan Roberts who was like, when LJ Cryer came to Houston from Baylor, he didn't really get it. He was a little upset with Kelvin Sampson because he was being coached so hard, and LJ Cryer felt he was being that he was going as hard as he could, and yet Kelvin Sampson was pushing him to go harder because he knew that LJ could go harder, and he didn't really get it. And now you see what he did on Saturday night, where he was the life force for Houston in that first half. If without LJ Cryer, that would have been a 50-point win for Duke.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think they were shooting 31% from the field, but yet they made 5 of their 11 threes. So as bad as it was for Houston putting the ball in the hole in the first half, they were only down 6 at the break.
Yeah.
So it was still a ball game, but Duke is so damn good and talented and play so well together. I mean, when that thing got to 12 in the second half or whatever it got to, 14, that's when I was thinking, okay, Houston's finally met their match. It's one of the reasons why I got home. I mean, when they were able to take literally everything that went their way in the first half, only be up 6, and then to expand that lead, I thought that was going to be, I thought I'd seen enough, quite frankly. And obviously, they're going to let you know that when you've seen enough.
Yeah, we'll expand on this in a little bit when we talk about the championship game. But I went into locker rooms after the game, and this was part of the package that I put together yesterday. Was I talked to all the players, and I was like, "What was the point where you knew you were going to win?" It was that Emmanuel Sharp 3 when they went up, or they went down from 61 to 64. They were down by 3 at that point, and that play almost didn't even happen. Emmanuel Sharp slips and barely gets the ball to LJ Cryer or Milos Uzan, I forgot which one it was, and then has to set that screen and get open. Almost gets his shot blocked again by Cooper Flagg, but he stays down, is able to hit the 3, and it makes it a 3-point game. Then they get the steal, and the rest is history. But that was the point where everyone was like, we're going to win this game. And the belief that the entire team had the entire game until the very last second that they were going to win is something that's truly special, to use their word. This is a special team to them. They consistently use that word, they being Houston. And it was truly something special to see the belief in the team, no matter how many points they were down. So I thought it was really interesting. On the Florida front, they were down too. They had a ferocious comeback.
Yes,
theirs just came a bit earlier. They were down by 8 going into halftime, and they allowed 46 points in the first half, 26 in the paint. Like, Auburn was doing whatever they wanted at all times. John I. Broom was being a healthy John I. Broom. And they came out in the second half, and after the first couple of minutes, I think it was 49-40 I want to say with about 17 and a half minutes left, 11-0 run by Florida. They're winning by 2. Like just out of nowhere, Walter Clayton and all the guys on that team just step up, and they will just go on a run, and you don't even see it coming. By the time they fixed it, they being Auburn, they were like, "Holy crap, we're down by 2!" Like, how did this even happen? And the firepower that Florida has just never ceases to amaze me.
WCJ.
Dude, Walter Clayton is.
Yeah,
I tweeted it out on Saturday. I was watching it. I was like, this dude's got Steph Curry in him. Like, it is insane. The followays, the shot creation, the layups that he made. The layup at the end of the game where it was the and one where he banked it off the backboard and it went in as he was following all of his momentum going forward, and he has the touch to just lob it up there while he's getting fouled. I was like, holy crap. How the hell did he make that?
He sees space like few others, and obviously he's athletic enough, and he's just smooth, man. I mean, he's so much fun to watch, and it's just, I mean, what a player, and, mid-major guy doing that. I see NBA mock boards. They don't have him anywhere near where you think
I want that kid
play.
on my team, bro.
I'm telling you,
Good
man.
Lord.
Instant offense.
The Gators, they made the big shots, and the Tigers just really couldn't get them to fall at the end of the game. It was close. Like, even though Florida made a pretty great comeback at the beginning, it was close all the way throughout. It was Auburn took the lead, then Florida took the lead. It was back and forth. I think the biggest lead for Florida until the end of the game was about 5. The biggest lead for Auburn obviously was, I think it was like 12, but that was in the first half. It was very close until they went off late, and Baker Mazzara couldn't hit those shots, and Todd Pettiford had a horrible game. And John Broome just frankly didn't look healthy. And after the game, the guys in the locker room were asked, like, what's it mean to you that John was battling through all these things? And they clearly knew that he was not 100%. But the second best player in the country, or third, depending on how you want to rank him, Cooper Flagg being the first, wasn't not going to play in these games. Like, that was never an option. So you have to respect everything that Bruce Pearl and John Broome and Todd Pettiford and all the guys on that team put forward, because they put up a hell of a fight when their best player was clearly not 100%. Let's hear from Todd Golden after the game, who is the head coach of the Florida Gators.
We were able to turn up our pressure a little bit defensively. I thought we got them on their heels offensively. We started, just guarding more physically in the paint and making it harder for them to put us in the basket. Got some clean rebounds out in transition, and they controlled the game in the first half. We stuck around and we were hanging in, but we controlled the game in the second half. And I thought after the first 2 minutes of the second half, we did that consistently.
Absolutely. I mean, the 11-0 run they went on that happened in the blink of an eye. Basically, from 17:30, and I'm sure everyone who watched the game notices this, they do an under-16 timeout. By the time the under-16 timeout happened, which I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, was at 15:57, it was a tie game. In a minute and a half, they went on a 9-0 run, tied the game, and it was just the mood in the arena, which was heavily Auburn fans, by the way. Auburn had more people there than Florida did. Completely shifted. And you could just feel the energy from that Auburn section just be completely sucked out. It was something to see. As far as the championship game goes, now 2 teams that are so different. One team is great defensively, elite defensively. Actually, before I get into it, let's just hear what Todd Golden had to say about the 2 differences between these teams. He says it better than I can.
Analytically, like us in Houston, on Ken Palmer, efficiency margin is like within 0.1 of each other over 100 possessions. And obviously we're an elite offensive team and a top 10 defensive team. They're a top 10 offensive team and elite defensive team. And so, I do think it's going to be a contrasting little battle that way to see who can, hopefully we can get the game up and down a little bit. They're going to impose their will just as they've done on everybody this year. And we're a pretty tough team also.
I mean, yeah, both teams are tough, but no one's tougher than Houston. I thought it was interesting this week, I think it was yesterday, that they were comparing the 2 teams, and the guys on the podium were asked, okay, how do you look at this Houston team? How do you look at this Florida team? And the guys, I think it was Todd Golden, who said this Houston team reminds him of Tennessee, who just are physical and imposing and try to impose their will on you for 40 minutes and hit timely shots. And then I think it was Milos Uzan who said, we look at this like a bigger Texas A&M. They have that one player, Wade Taylor on Texas A&M, Walter Clayton obviously on Florida. We look at them like that, where they are really good all around, but they have the one guy who is he's the straw that stirs the drink. And so I think it's really interesting that they're taking those comparisons as to teams they've played already this year, and now thinking, okay, well, how did we play that team? Let's try and, kind of mold our game plan around how we played those other familiar opponents.
Yeah, I think Coach Golden struck a nice chord there when he said, we're a tough team too. I mean, they showed that in the Auburn game.
100%.
Right? It's who's going to play the hardest for the longest is ultimately who's going to win this game, in my mind, because both of these teams had to overcome deficits, which you pointed out. And I just think it's going to come down to that, because there's going to be ebbs and flows, runs by both teams. Who's going to sustain that kind of energy for all 40 minutes? And I think that'll be the team that ends up on top.
Bob, anybody chiming in?
Well, first of all, Tom Guerrero is in the house.
Shout out Tom Guerrero.
Tom said it was nice on Saturday. I was able to take a photo with Coach K.
Nice.
But the legend was exiting his Uber.
I passed him, and I didn't realize that Coach K was that tall. He was taller than I expected.
Mario said downtown was fun this weekend, and constant listener Robert Smith said downtown after the game was a little bit of 07 championship feel.
Really?
Everyone downtown for hours. Loved the game, and the energy was great.
Yeah, everyone that's been downtown this week has rave reviews. It's been fun, to say the least. Jordan, my wife, went down there, and we have a friend that lives in the Grand Hyatt in those apartments up top. And so they decided not to go and be in the masses during T-Pain on Saturday night. Instead, they just watched it from the balcony, and she was like, that was the best thing ever, because it looked like a zoo. There were so many people in town. It looked crazy.
A good time had by all. That's what it's all about, right? Find your place and mingle and watch the show.
I was just worried people were going to be shaking their asses too hard and fall off balconies. I mean, T-Pain was putting on a good show, it looked like. So anyway, back to the game. The contrast of styles is going to be interesting, because Houston wants to slow it down. Houston wants to play. Oh, sorry. Whenever Luis turns around, I assume something's wrong. Because I have the switcher over here. For people who can't see, I have the audio switcher over here. So whenever he turns around, he's usually like down, up, bad, speak. I don't know. So we're learning sign language. Anyway, yeah. Thank you.
But one of the friendliest guys you'll ever meet, Luis.
Oh, yes.
Not as good as
Warm.
Kelvin
Such a
Sampson.
Warm and
joy.
fuzzy.
Just a joy to be around.
Yeah, as long as he's had his Red Bull that day. Anyway, so these two teams, the styles are so different. Houston, more physical, more imposing, doesn't want to get up and down, wants to stop you from the transition, wants to hit their timely threes, and wants to play solid defense. And the great defense that they play is just outstanding. I mean, they rotate well. They're physical when they're playing you man to man. You have to play perfect offense to beat the defense that they play. They help when they're supposed to help. They come over and defend and recover really well when you're trying to switch off screens. They do all those things extremely well.
They're bouncy too, right? I mean, balls off the rim, and you see guys are they're like pogo sticks. I mean, they keep coming. They don't stop. The ball's loose, and there looks like there's five guys or, in one of those little
trampolines
things that you have when you're
to
a
that
kid.
point. Coach Sampson said JoJo Tugler probably has the best third jump that he's ever seen from anybody, because because that's how college basketball is. You tip a ball and then you need to jump twice, and he's like his third jump is better than most people's first jumps. That's why he gets so many boards.
See, like, I'm not even thinking about things like that until he basically says it. Coach Sampson, I'm talking about, right? I mean, you're thinking about, okay, this is where the coaching comes in, right? Guys like me aren't thinking about the third jump, and he's thinking about that. I also thought it was really telling what he talked about on yesterday when, the thought had crossed his mind about having to foul because they were down so many so late. And he went into this long example as to why he didn't do what he did and how it proved to be the right call. And it was, and he said at the end of it, sometimes you make the right call, sometimes you don't. But I mean, it was fascinating him breaking down everything that he was thinking about in the moment, why he didn't foul, to include the fact that Duke's, basically a 90% free throw shooting team.
Everyone really except for Tyrese Proctor, apparently.
Right.
Man, would you rather? I also asked the guys yesterday, a couple of guys on Houston, because I think it's so interesting that they have so many guys. Like it'll be Milos Uzan one night, and then it'll be Malik Wilson one night, and then it'll be LJ Cryer, or it's Emmanuel Sharp, or it's Juwan Roberts, or they have so many dudes that make shots, they don't rely on one. And Walter Clayton obviously is the straw that stirs the drink, to use that expression again, for Florida. So I think it's interesting, that dynamic as well, that Houston, obviously, to win this game, they have to shut down Walter Clayton, or they have to at least stop him from going nuclear, which he has done this entire tournament. But how does Florida defend 5 guys that can make shots instead of just one? You know what I mean? Like,
well, they're long,
yeah,
and they're athletic, and they're skilled. So, you know, in that regard, I think they're going to look a lot like Duke in a lot of, you know, the same kind of a size and length and twitchiness about them, and playing well together. So, I mean, they're good. They're in the national championship game right?
Yeah.
And there's just that little extra element from Houston that you can't discount, which is the grit.
Yeah.
They have an extra scoop of grit.
But to that point, and it's something that's fascinated me about this Florida team, is their grit is not to be discounted. Correct. As well. I mean, you saw in the UConn game, they were down the entire game, came back to win that one. They almost covered that game until a late 3 by Alex Caravan. They came back and won against Texas Tech when they had no business winning that game. They had zero business winning that game against Texas Tech. Texas Tech was the better team for the entirety of the game, except for the last 45 seconds. Like, it was nuts what Walter Clayton did in that game. And then you see against Auburn, they just impose their will, and they have the horses or the Gators. They have the Gators to run the race, and to just go on these kinds of runs that it seems like there's just an avalanche, and the person at the bottom, the team they're playing, is at the bottom of this avalanche, and they're trying to stop it, and they just can't, and it just keeps coming downhill until eventually you're buried, and you have to kill them 10 times to really put them in the ground. And it's something that's fascinating, because these two teams are by far the most resilient teams in the entire nation.
They've proven that, right? I mean,
time and time again.
You don't get to this point without having had to prove that on, probably multiple occasions.
And you don't win an NCAA tournament without having a couple of white knucklers. You know what I mean? A couple of games where you're like, I don't know, we're gonna win this one. So, like, Houston's had 2, Purdue and Duke, obviously. Texas Tech and UConn are Florida's white knucklers. I think it's gonna be a very fascinating game. I'm really actually excited to see it tonight, because I think you could play this game 10 times. And I think each team would win 5.
And I'll be fascinated to watch with one eye, and then counterpunch over on the Fox side while we do Max Sports opposite the national championship game.
True.
Please watch anyway.
During halftime.
There we go.
You'll be on right
try
then.
to sync that up for you. Right?
One thing that I think will be cool, though, about this game is no matter how many points somebody's down, whether it's 10, 15, unless it's like a 30-point game, which I don't expect it to be. I would be really shocked if either of these teams got blown out. You kind of have to watch until the last shot is taken, because both of these teams have the ability to come back so rapidly that it's going to be an interesting one. Who wins?
Oh, man, I don't want to jinx the team.
I'll ask you 2 questions.
Okay.
Who do you want to win?
I want Houston to win.
And who do you think will win?
Houston. So I'll go with Houston.
I have the same 2 answers.
But I'm going to be okay if Florida wins.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent so much time in the locker rooms. Did you meet a single bad young man from Florida?
Nope.
A single bad person from Florida? I mean,
nope.
So that's part of this, right? If you really, honestly, because we don't cover the Houston Cougars on the reg, and you met both of these teams for the first time, it's like you're going to be cool with whoever goes home a national champion tonight.
I just want Houston to win, and I want I think they win. I want them to win, because I think we've spent more time with them, and Coach Sampson's really grown on me. But also, I want Terrence Arsenault to sink the game-winning shot.
There you go.
He's done it before in this building.
And I want Isaiah Brown to have a nice game or come off the bench, right? Because of all the nice things he did for us this week.
Yeah, and real quick, outside of the things game-related, we'll just shout out to what San Antonio has done for this Final Four. I've consumed a lot of media over the past few days, from Barstool to just everybody who's here, from Yahoo to CBS to Fox or whoever else is here. nothing but rave reviews about the way that San Antonio puts on this kind of show. They have done everything possible to make sure that all mouths are fed and that everyone's having a great time, from the Riverwalk, the river parades, to the concerts outside, to the fan fest, to everything. It's all walkable. The city has done a great job inviting people in and being receptive to the fan bases, and the Alamodome has just been out of this world.
Yep. Shout out Steve Zito. I mean, the dome always looks clean. I mean, when you walk in there, the floors always look immaculate, but with the upgrades with the carpet and all the fixtures and everything, I mean, it really does look incredible in there. I mean, it's really, really well done. Again, I can't say enough about Steve Zito and his crew over at the Dome, what they've done. Tried to get him on the horn this week, and we've been playing phone tag, but he was a little busy there on Wednesday or Thursday when I tried to get a hold of him.
At a certain point with the Alamodome, you can only do so much. It's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig, because the Alamodome does have its drawbacks. Like, it is an older building. It's all concrete. I mean, it's very steep because it used to be a basketball arena. I mean, it has its qualms, but they've done a fantastic job. It looks wonderful. And the suites that they put in for this event, everything is top notch. I cannot say enough about the job that San Antonio Sports has done, about the job that the Alamodome crew has done, the city has done, the county has done, SALOC has done, the NCAA has done. Everyone knocked this out of the park. And tonight is going to be a culmination of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours and hundreds and thousands of volunteers' hours to put this event on. It's going to be great. So,
amen. Well said.
I'm looking forward to that. What I'm not looking forward to is this next conversation. So, Dave Portnoy, the CEO and president of Barstool Sports, they had all their shows here. I think it was at, where was it at? River North Ice House in downtown. It's right actually by KSAT station. They did all their live shows there this week, and they had John Fanta on, and they were doing the whole thing. And Dave Portnoy didn't mince his words when it came to his take on Greg Popovich and the kind of coach and the kind of person that he is. And this is what he had to say, and then we'll talk about it after.
We're in San Antonio. I hate Popovich.
Oh, really?
I absolutely hate Popovich.
I love the turn the room.
He is an absolute pompous asshole. I could coach
but he also kind of deserves to be a pompous asshole. He's won
wasn't he the announcer? He's like, oh, we have Tim Duncan, we got Ginobili, we got this guy, we got that. I'll coach these guys. Anybody could win with them. He is the most arrogant, pompous asshole.
He's one of the greatest coaches in basketball.
You're pretending like Manu Ginobili was like the first pick in the draft.
They were loaded.
Yeah, but they were loaded partly because they got guys from places they never did.
Go Spurs, go!
I have no problem with
Spurs, go! Go Spurs, go!
I have no problem with Spurs. I respect the Spurs dynasty. I just don't like Popovich. I like their players. I don't like the coach. I don't like when he goes and he grabs a microphone. He's like, shut up, everybody. Just coach the team. He thinks he's God. He thinks he's the righteous morality. He's like, he always lectures you. I always feel like Popovich is lecturing me. I don't want to hear from you. Coach your team and shut up.
I have so many things to say. First of all, he wasn't the announcer. He was the president of the team, and he came down, fired the coach, and took over, which he had every right to do. You go first.
Well, yeah, he was the GM at the time when that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whenever I hear stuff like this, I mean, this is what guys like Portnoy do. I mean, he's made his lot in life by preaching a certain way, and it's not necessarily my cup of tea per se. That's actually the first time I've heard any of that. I mean, it's just stuff I don't choose to listen to, and
I don't either. I just saw the article.
Yeah, I mean, I always find it fascinating too that, when you hear somebody say what he's saying, it's, take a look in the mirror, dude. I mean, everything you're saying about another human being, he's essentially doing too. So I don't know. I mean, not giving it a lot of weight.
Yeah, it's just, I feel like a lot of people don't like Greg Popovich because of how outspoken he's been on politics and how outspoken he's been on other subjects. When you let that conflate what he's done on the basketball court and what he's done for his team, yeah, everyone has different politics, and that's fine. That's what the foundation of America is disagreeing with people, hearing other people's opinions, and then you guys come to some sort of understanding. That's what the two-party system is. He voted for Donald Trump. I can almost guarantee you that Greg Popovich did not. So, I mean, they have differing opinions and different things that way. And yes, Greg Popovich has preached a lot at his press conferences when it comes to civil rights and when it comes to women's rights and when it comes to all those things. But you can't say that Greg Popovich is an asshole, first of all, because he's not. You can't say that Greg Popovich isn't one of the greatest coaches of all time because he's not. And you can't say that you hate Greg Popovich, but you respect the Spurs dynasty because he is the Spurs dynasty. He was the only one here for all of them besides Tim and R.C. Buford, obviously. But like, you can't, those two things don't mesh. You can't say both of those things in the same breath and say, oh, I'm making a great point. Like, he did coach his team. And he was the dynasty for the Spurs. You just can't make that point. That's not a good point to make. And it's to say that in downtown San Antonio with Spurs fans present while there's Tim Duncan jerseys in the bar and saying you hate Greg Popovich is just so disrespectful to the city that he and the franchise that he's helped build and to the fans that were in attendance. Like, it's just not.
But this is how he's ascended, right? I mean, that's his game. So kind of knew that if you invited Mr. Portnoy in to elicit whatever it is that he was going to say or do, that he was going to do something that involved clicks and views. I mean,
and it's weird because, like, I like Portnoy. I like Barstool Sports a lot. I consume can you put us in the two-shot there, Luis? I consume their content a lot, but it's like, read the room.
Well, wasn't one of Portnoy's points was that it's selfish of Popovich not to step down? He's actually hurting his team.
No, I don't think they never talked about, at least in that clip. They never talked about
that was in the conversation. That was one of the things he's saying, is that he's actually hurting the team because he's so full of himself and everything that he won't step down.
I didn't hear that part. Because they only talked about it for a couple of minutes. It must have either been way before or way after when that clip happened, which is about 45 minutes into their Friday show. Yeah, I didn't hear that part because it's also disrespectful to speak like this about him when he's on the mend from a stroke. Like that's the other part of this. Yeah. It's like this is a guy that could have died if he was not around medical personnel when that happened. And he wasn't taken care of immediately when that happened. And now you're going to say this about him in his city that he has helped bring to the forefront of the sporting universe. It's just, it leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And that's even coming from me, who's not from San Antonio. Like, I have no affiliation with the Spurs. I don't like the Spurs as a team, like as a franchise. That's not my favorite team. I like covering them, obviously, but it's just, it puts a bad taste in your mouth, to say the least. And then you have the other guy on Barstool, Big Cat, who I love. Big Cat. He is a great interviewer. I like his style of interviewing. I think he's very funny. Love a lot of his content. He tweets out during the Duke game, "Stop showing Coach K. He's retired. No one cares about that old blank." Why? Why be disrespectful to the older coaches? Like, what is wrong? They also talked crap on Tom Izzo during the podcast. I was like, what is wrong with you guys and old coaches? Why are we disrespecting everyone who's built the game up to where it is right now? It doesn't make any sense. Like, yes, it's getting people to talk about it, but good Lord.
And mission accomplished. We talked about it for a good 4 or 5 minutes here. So this is what they do, but this is the environment that we live in too. Sadly.
It's off-putting, to say the least. Like, I'm not going to stop listening to Barstool stuff. I don't agree with all of it, obviously, but I'm not going to stop listening to it. But it's very off-putting to see something like that happen on a week that is made for celebration of college basketball and a team, obviously the Spurs, who got eliminated from playoff contention last night officially, even though they've been basically eliminated for the last month.
Yeah, they're actually eliminated before last night's game, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that on Thursday. Yeah. They got eliminated with the Kings win.
Right, because the magic number yesterday.
They needed to win. They needed to win all 5, and they needed the Kings to lose all 5.
Right, but they didn't own the tiebreaker against the Kings. The second tiebreaker, because actually the first tiebreaker is head-to-head. They split their season series. So
yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It was very off-putting, but shout out to all the Spurs fans that were in attendance getting the Go Spurs Go. Yeah, hell yeah.
Probably had a hard time leaving without security.
Honestly. Shout out to all of them for getting the Go Spurs Go chant shout out to John Fanta, who is the guy sitting right next to Dave Portnoy, and in between him and Big Cat, who was fighting for Pop's honor, I'll just say, for lack of a better term, and was getting the Go Spurs Go chant started, and was saying that Coach Pop is one of the best of all time, because he is. And
yeah, you don't joke your way to 5 championships.
No, you don't joke.
End of story. Turn the page.
And you can talk about him as a coach all you want, but saying he's a bad person isn't. Like, if you speak to anybody within the Spurs organization or anybody that Coach Pop has coached, it's not the story. And for a guy that has never met Coach Pop, like Dave Portnoy, who's admitted he has never met Coach Pop, to say all that stuff didn't need to be said. Bob, anything on the way out?
We just had one complaint from Dave Smith. He said, and maybe some you guys can talk about this a little bit. Surely it could have been played at the AT&T Center or the Frost Center rather than the antique Alamodome. But I think that just presents a problem for downtown.
Yeah, especially when you have 60-something thousand people in the Alamodome.
Well,
there's a reason why it's in the dome.
There's a lot of reasons why it's in the dome. One of them is that they got 68,252 people in the Alamodome.
Exactly.
You couldn't get that. That's triple. Almost, that's more than triple. That's almost 4.5 times.
I get,
what
some people don't like the way the Alamodome looks on the outside. It's kind of grown on me over time. But again, on the inside, like, you go watch a football game, you're not gonna have better sight lines for a football game than you are in the Alamodome. So I mean, is it perfect? No, but I mean, for older stadiums, it's held up pretty damn well. And I don't know, I like going down there. It's, like I said, it's clean. The floors are nice. It doesn't look like anything needs fixing, which is, you can't say that for most of the other part of the city. So
but also,
what's wrong with the dome?
They has air conditioning. They sell beer. What else do you need? Yeah. But also, like, where are you going if you're going to the east side of town? Like, there's nothing there. There's nothing. Part of the reason that San Antonio gets these events is because of the walkability of downtown. Everything's within a 1.5 mile, 2 mile stretch. The hotels, the restaurants, the bars, the venue, everything you need. There's public transportation that'll take you to and from. Everything is down there. If you go to the east side, we're going to have like the taxis and buses and Ubers just to take you out there, and then you have to get an Uber back. There's no walking to the stadium on the east side.
And now you know why that whole project out there was a failure.
Yeah,
because it just can't work.
Yeah, it can't work.
There's
a lot.
To get other things to go with it, and that's the one thing that they failed to do.
Yeah, it's been 25 years now, and there's been no development on the east side of town. That's why the Spurs want to move downtown. There's a reason that all of this Project Marvel stuff is coming about. So, anyway, that's all we got. Anything else, Bob?
Nope.
We've gone a little long. Sorry, everybody, but
you didn't ask me what Florida.
I don't know I forgot when we started. It was like 1:15, so we're a little long, but it's fine. Luis doesn't have anything else to do.
It'd be the best 45 minutes you see today.
All right, guys, that was a lot of fun. It's been a hell of a week. We're going to do a little bit more of a recap on Thursday about the Final Four, about the championship game. The Masters starts this week. Didn't even mention the Masters this whole podcast, and it's my favorite weekend of the year. I love the Masters.
That's ball golf, right? Ball golf.
It's not disc golf, which you threw your arm out
Did you
the other day.
Wow, sporting injury, eh?
Anytime I move around nowadays, it's sporting injury.
You remember in
pickleball the other day? Yes.
You remember in bench warmers when they're talking, they're like, athlete has 3 syllables. Athlete, that's amazing. You're a 3-syllable athlete. That's what you are. Anyway, so that's all we got for you today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast. Can I have a full show on Thursday? Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We'll be back then. See you then. Enjoy the game tonight. Go Cougs.